Hi, it's Rob Bowron, and welcome back to the Saturday Six. I'm really excited for this week. Should be a really interesting week. I think we've got finally, and I say this, I don't mean this in like a super harsh way, but the Big Ten outside of Ohio State playing Notre Dame, they've only got a handful of really good teams, and we're finally getting to see them play each other. With Ohio State and Penn State this week, which is, I think, really, really exciting that we're finally getting to see. Because I think there's a broad assumption that the Big Ten is going to send one team, and I think that's likely correct, to the college football playoff. But outside of Ohio State, we don't really know all that much about how good some of these other teams really are. And there's only two that are really worth discussing. That's Penn State and Michigan. If this is your first time tuning in, we're going to run through 6 games for the weekend from an advanced stats perspective. All the advanced stats are coming from Beta-Rank, an advanced stat system for college football designed by me. I'm the econometrician behind it. We use data from the same people that provide data to the College Football Playoff Committee. Everything you see today is going to be controlling at least for opponent and field position and tempo. Sometimes it's going to control for more. But it should give you a kind of a different perspective than you're going to get from a lot of the standard takes on how the games are going to go, what teams are vulnerable against, or what they are proficient at. I set myself a timer for 5 minutes for each game, and I try to make it. I usually do. Anyway, there's some really good games this week. I mean, of course, like I said, the headliners in the Big Ten. We're not really going to know. And Michigan's just been beating the tar out of very, very bad competition. And most of the Big Ten, really, a lot of the Big Ten is so bad that, Michigan's schedule is littered with bad Power 5 teams that are in conference, and they didn't have a terribly challenging conference schedule. But we're not going to know how Michigan performs against a team at the upper end of the distribution until November when they play Penn State. For Ohio State, at least we have some idea, given that they played at Notre Dame. And now we're going to get an idea for Penn State too, what they really look like against, much better competition than they've played up to this point. Should be a really interesting data point for us to have in our back pocket. There's some other really good games. FSU is going to get tested again at Duke. We're going to cover that one. There's another good game in the ACC with Clemson and Miami. Utah and USC, I think, is an interesting game. We're definitely going to cover that one as well. But I think that there's a real chance this week that we're going to see some winnowing of the field. Some of these games are going to be potentially close enough that if somebody has a really bad day, they finish on the negative side on turnovers, things could go very wrong for them. So let's go ahead and hop in. I'm doing this at lunch, so we got to get this rolling. First game out, of course, Penn State's playing at Ohio State. It's at noon on Fox. James Franklin is your head coach for Penn State. Ryan Day is your head coach for Ohio State. Ryan Day is also your play caller on the offensive side here. Manny Diaz is your defensive play caller for Penn State. The Ohio State offense is definitely taking a step back from where they were last season. They're really struggling right now overall with drive efficiency. Being able to sustain drives to be able to put up points is a real problem. 28 overall, that's kind of middle of the Power 5. Drive efficiency is what separates good and very good and great from very good offenses. Lots of teams are pretty good at putting up explosives. But the Buckeyes are just struggling both in play calling and execution to be able to sustain drives to put up points. They are fairly proficient still at explosive drives, number 12 overall here. It's an interesting one to keep an eye on. They have been reliant on big plays. Number 5 overall in play efficiency. This is your yards per play outside of explosives. They do a good job here. It's the least important of the core 4 Beta-Rank metrics, but probably their best number overall is this number 8 overall on negative drives. They do a really good job avoiding 3 and outs, avoiding turnovers, shooting themselves in the foot. But they are struggling. I would not have expected, given Ryan Day replacing the offensive line coach 2 years ago, that we'd be in the second year of Justin Fry's tenure and we would still be having these kind of problems on the offensive line. They are simply not effective running the football, and it starts up front. It's got to be driving Ryan Day nuts. They still have a very good passing attack, number 5 overall on effective pass. Kyle McCord hasn't been bad. I think that there's an expectation that he would be better, but he doesn't have any run game support really to speak of right now. Now they did open it up a little bit and made some changes against Purdue. We'll see if that holds. Purdue doesn't have a terribly good defense. They're going to get a really good test. This Manny Diaz-led Penn State defense is phenomenal. They're at number 3 overall in beta rank right now. They do a really good job with drive efficiency, finding ways to keep teams from being able to put up points. I'm really interested here. They're struggling a little bit more against explosive drives, giving up a couple, some big plays. That's something they're going to have to limit here in order to limit the Buckeyes. Number 1 overall in play efficiency. They do a really good job limiting the yards per play. And number 2 in negative drives. Now, this is something to watch out for here. Diaz might be gambling a little bit, and getting burned every once in a while, but it's with big plays, but it's largely paying off, being able to get home, force 3 and outs, force turnovers with that negative drives number. Be interesting to see who's able to either limit these for Ohio State or cause them if you are Penn State. No big run pass split for Penn State. Solid against the run and solid against the pass. Flip it to the other side of the football. Mike Yurcich is your offensive play caller for Penn State. Jim Knowles is your defensive play caller for Ohio State. This is a very interesting Penn State offense. They're good. It's sitting at number 14 overall. No one's, by the definition of what we would call from the last couple seasons, a great offense this year. No one's got above that 2 threshold. Washington's the closest. But Penn State's very good at drive efficiency. They do a good job stringing together drives to be able to put up points, but they struggle to put up big plays overall. Oh, I should have called it out. Kyle McCord for Ohio State, 64.1 completion percentage, 9.7 per, because I'm about to call this out and you'll see the comparison versus Drew Allar's statistics. So they struggle to get the ball down the field quite a bit. They're struggling with play efficiency, number 51 overall here. Their yards per play outside of explosives isn't great. Number 30 overall in negative drives. This is okay. They do a decent job compared to, say, what they're doing in explosives and limiting 3 and outs, limiting turnovers. They're far better and far more effective at running the football than they are at throwing it. Number 38 overall in effective pass right now. Now, Allar is sitting at 65.2 completion percentage. That's pretty good. Definitely where you want a quarterback to be these days in modern college football, but only 6.9 yards per attempt. And that's where you can tell, they're not taking a lot of shots down the field. They're not putting up a lot of big plays. This Ohio State defense under Knowles has made a phenomenal turnaround. Now, they do struggle a little bit. And again, this is a number to keep an eye on. With drive efficiency, you are able to sustain drives against them, but almost nobody's putting up big plays against the Buckeyes right now. They're number 1 overall at limiting big plays, number 3 at play efficiency, and number 8 overall in negative drives. And just like on the last one, but it's interesting because both teams are really good on Ohio State's offense at limiting, Penn State's defense at putting them up. Ohio State's pretty good at putting up negative drives, forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. Penn State's not as good. So this will be an interesting one to watch out for as Penn State tries to sustain drives, tries to put together long drives to put up points. It's unlikely they're going to be able to put up a lot of big plays in this game. No big run pass split for Ohio State. But it will be interesting to see in this matchup if Penn State has to really rely on Allar to potentially win the game. We've got this at Ohio State, 71% win probability at home, about 6.67 points in the naive spread. The predicted score is Ohio State 24.47, Penn State 17.49. That is not a misprint. Duke's really good. Mike Elko is your head coach for Duke, and they're visiting Florida State. Mike Norvell is, of course, your head coach for Florida State and their offensive play caller. They come in at number 7 overall in beta rank on offense. Very good offense. They're at 15 overall in drive efficiency. They're struggling a little bit comparatively to be able to sustain drives to put up points. You'd like to see them be able to pick up this number, but they're excellent at explosive drives. Number 4 overall here. They do a very good job putting up big plays. 4 overall in play efficiency. They're at 7 in negative drives. They do a really good job limiting 3 and outs, limiting turnovers. They're not great running the football, number 15 overall here, but they're pretty good. And number 9 overall in effective pass. This is a fairly balanced offense. You'd like to see them, I think, if they were going to get into the top 5 offensively, the growth is probably going to have to become in drive efficiency. They're going to have to get better at sustaining drives and execution. Some of that's play calling as well, too. Jordan Travis is your quarterback here, 63.2% completion percentage, 8.1 per. Tyler Santucci is your defensive play caller for Duke. I'm assuming Mike Elko also has significant input. He's one of the best defensive minds in the game. They're number 7 overall. That's incredible for where this Duke defense was when Elko took over. I mean, this entire Duke team is significantly improved over where they were with Elko, but this defense, to get a top 10 defense out of Duke, is really remarkable coaching. What they do really well is they use the field to their advantage and find ways to get off the field and not give up drives. Number 1 overall in drive efficiency. They're really good at finding ways to get off the field and not give up points. 13 overall in explosive drives. They can give up some big plays, relatively speaking. Number 14 overall in play efficiency. They do a good job limiting yards per play. Where they're struggling comparatively is they're struggling at negative drives, forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. Thing to keep an eye on here, 21 overall in effective rush. Florida State's a good enough rushing attack that they might exploit Duke's softness against the run. Number 3 overall in effective pass and defending the pass. That's something I think you'll likely see. You know, like Jordan Travis will probably have a pretty good game. I wouldn't expect him to necessarily have a huge game. He's got a 63.2% completion percentage, 8.1 per. I don't know. Maybe I already said that. Anyway, you flip it over to the other side of the football. This Duke offense under Kevin Johns has certainly taken significant strides forward as well. 24 overall in beta rank. Now, this is a little closer to being like a good-ish, like on the right side of median Power 5 offense. Number 40 overall in drive efficiency. They're all right here. They could definitely be better at sustaining drives and putting up points. They don't necessarily have the horses to be able to put up a lot of big plays either. Number 34 overall in explosive drives. Pretty good at play efficiency. Number 20 overall here. They're pretty good at finding ways to sustain their yards per play outside of explosives. And 24 overall in negative drives. They do a good job here limiting 3 and outs, limiting turnovers. There's a significant run pass split here. They're a lot better running the football, number 9 overall in effective rush than they are in throwing it, number 68 in effective pass. I should say Kevin John. I think I said Kevin Johns is your offensive play caller. Adam Fuller is your defensive play caller for Florida State. Riley Leonard is currently 62.7% completion percentage, 7.2 per. He's definitely definitely a danger with his legs, and hopefully he's back to being fully healthy. I am excited to see this matchup in particular. This Florida State defense has bounced back significantly after some early struggles that they had against Boston College, that they had against Clemson. They've had a couple of good weeks. Number 14 overall in beta rank is definitely an improvement for them. They're at number 8 overall in drive efficiency. They do a good job finding ways to use the field to their advantage. Their offense is often putting up points. So they often start with a pretty long field. Number 19 overall in explosive drives. That's something to maybe keep an eye on here, whether Duke's able to squeak out some big plays here against them. Number 27 in play efficiency. Outside of explosives, they are a little vulnerable to somebody putting up a yards per play on them. But they do a fairly good job at number 17 overall in negative drives, forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. It's just going to be, I think, an interesting matchup here and how Duke's going to find ways to put up points. I don't expect them to completely, 14 isn't such an overwhelming defense that we should expect Duke to just get shut down here. But Duke's probably going to have to be able to sustain some drives, even though Florida State is a little more susceptible, I think, to explosive plays. But they're likely to have better athletes all over the field than Duke is. No big run pass split for Florida State here. We've got this as, if I could read my own handwriting, there we go. FSU with an 80% win probability here, 10.23 in the naive spread is what Florida State's favored by. A little bit, significantly closer though in the predicted score, 25.72 to 21.04 for Florida State and Duke. This game is interesting. This is not like it feels like it does. It's got the 3:30 time slot on CBS, but it doesn't feel like it, and it's not really a titanic showdown between these two teams. Nick Saban is, of course, your head coach for Alabama. Josh Heupel is your head coach for Tennessee. This Alabama offense is number 33 overall. That's a middle of the road Power 5 offense. Tommy Rees is your play caller, at least for this season. They are really struggling offensively, even with the quarterback change. They definitely have some problems. 42 overall in drive efficiency. They're struggling to be able to put together long drives to put up points. 31 in explosive drives. They are a fairly explosive offense, but they are, for some reason, it's just not enough. They can put up big plays. They definitely put it together a little more against Arkansas, at least on the offensive side of the football, than they had. 36 overall in play efficiency. They're doing it's hard to say decent. All of these numbers are middle of the Power 5 by Alabama standards, and by the quality of players that they have on this offense. This is embarrassing. 36 overall in play efficiency, 46 in negative drives, too many 3-and-outs, too many turnovers. They're a lot better running the football than they are throwing it. They're at 18 overall in effective rush versus 58 in effective pass. They are really struggling, I think, to get the throw game going still. Jalen Milroe is your quarterback here. He's definitely been the best of the bunch. 64.4% completion percentage, 10.6 per. They just need to rely on, I think you're going to have to let him cook. You're going to have to rely on him more. Now, this Tennessee defense is really interesting. They are number 18 overall. Tim Banks is your defensive play caller. But they are struggling with drive efficiency. Teams have been able to put up drives to put up points against this Tennessee defense, but they are doing a really good job, number 4 overall, in limiting big plays. That's something to keep an eye on here. If Alabama has to drive the length of the field, Tennessee has done a really good job of keeping things in front of them and not giving up big plays. Now, play efficiency-wise, they are kind of in the middle of the Power 5-ish. Outside of explosive, their yards per play, but they do a really, really good job forcing 3-and-outs, forcing turnovers, number 6 overall in negative drives. That's something to keep an eye on here, whether they're able to force Alabama into some negative situations. They're better against the run than they are against the pass. That makes I think, an interesting matchup against this Alabama team that is struggling a little bit more to throw the football around. Now you flip it around. Offensively, Tennessee has fallen considerably off the map from where they were last season. Josh Heupel, of course, is your play caller. Number 22 overall. They were at number 2 last season. They got up over that 2 barrier and had what we would consider a great or big offense in college football. This year, they're nowhere near that. 26 overall in drive efficiency. They're struggling a little bit to be able to put together long drives to put up points. The one that I think really stands out, I think even in a bad year, I expect this offense to still be extremely explosive given Heupel's history, but they are not. They are struggling to put up big plays. 40 overall in explosive drives. Now, they're good in their yards per play outside of explosives, number 12 here. But their negative drives, number 35 overall, too many 3-and-outs, too many turnovers. They have a huge run pass split here. Number 4 in effective rush versus 79 in effective pass. They definitely rely on the run game more, which I do think actually is a sign that Heupel is tailoring what he's calling to what his personnel are this year. Joe Milton's your quarterback here, 61.5% completion percentage, 6.9 per. Neither of those are really where you want to be. You want to be closer to that 65 line completion percentage in modern college football these days. And 6.9 per is telling you that he is not effective at getting the ball down the field, despite having a howitzer for an arm, of course. The Alabama defense is coached by Kevin Steele. Number 11 overall in beta rank. They definitely have had some less than stellar outings of late. Number 4 overall number 20 overall in drive efficiency. They are a little bit susceptible to putting together long drives to put up points. That's interesting, I think, if you look across, because Tennessee is a little less explosive and less reliant on big plays. Alabama's doing a pretty good job of limiting big plays. Number 11 overall here. Their play efficiency number is quite good, number 6 overall. And they do an okay job of forcing 3-and-outs, forcing turnovers. Again, that's something to keep an eye on, whether turnovers come into play in this game, given that both defenses are better than their opposing offenses at causing them. The run-pass split is not necessarily to Alabama's advantage coming into this game. They're struggling a little bit to defend the run. 34 overall in effective rush versus number 4 in effective pass. Got this at Alabama with the 65% win probability. 4.34 at home is what the naive spread. I've got a predicted score here, though, for Alabama 26.35, Tennessee 18.58. All right. This is, it's an interesting game. This side of it is going to be fun. The other side may not be. Kyle Whittingham, of his coach, of course, is the coach of the Utes. Lincoln Riley is your head coach for USC. Riley, of course, is your offensive play caller as well. They sit at number 9 overall in beta rank. This offense is worse than they were last year. I don't know that I was quite expecting that. I thought Riley's offensive line was going to be better. Adding Cliff Kingsbury into the mix and the coaching staff too, I thought would help with the play calling creativity. Instead, it feels as if Caleb Williams is dragging a USC team that isn't really playing well together and feels like an island of misfit toys. It feels like Caleb Williams is really trying to drag them towards the promised land this season, and they have no more room for error after getting blown out by Notre Dame. They're at 18 overall in drive efficiency. They're struggling to put together long drives to be able to put up points. They're quite reliant on big plays. Number 5 overall on explosive drives. And a lot of that is Williams being able to scramble and buy enough time for guys to get open further down the field. And then that turns into a big play. It's really tough to sustain basically playing a little bit of backyard football consistently. But Caleb Williams is trying to do it. Number 8 overall in play efficiency. They do a good job outside of explosives getting up their yards per play. And I mean, part of it is really due to Caleb Williams' escapability. They're at number 4 overall in negative drives. Not a lot of 3-and-outs, not a lot of turnovers. He did have, of course, a turnover-ridden outing against the Irish. We'll see what it's like in this game here. They're really struggling to run the football. Number 40 overall in effective rush. The offensive line really has not been good. And number 6 overall in effective pass. They do a decent job, relatively speaking, getting the ball down the field in the passing game. Although I do think you could make an argument that the wide receiver core has taken a little bit of a step back for them this year. They get a Utah defense under Morgan Scalley, number 6 overall in beta rank. One of the best Utah defenses we've really seen. Number 12 overall in drive efficiency. They do a really good job finding ways to get off the field and not give up points. Number 15 overall in explosive drives. They do a good job, but they are a little susceptible, and that's what you're going to have to keep an eye on here, is whether they are susceptible to giving up big plays. They're number 2 overall in play efficiency outside of explosives. They do a really good job limiting yards per play. And number 4 overall in negative drives. This Utah team has gotten better in their front 7, and they are really, I mean, they've been good. If you look down at the effective rush, they've been good the past couple seasons against the run. They've struggled a bit more against the pass. They haven't really. Their back half of the schedule is loaded with the teams within the Pac-12 that throw the ball really well. They haven't really faced anyone that can really gun it down the field yet. They're number 16 overall in effective pass. They've had a sneaky, leaky pass defense for a couple seasons now. I'm interested to see in this game in particular, keep an eye out. Utah's a green dog team when they send blitzers after Caleb Williams. Williams got harassed a lot at Notre Dame. He might again against this Utah team. But you flip it around, I mean, avert your eyes. This is not a pretty matchup at all. But both of these units are bad enough in equal measure that maybe it'll be fun. This Utah offense under Andy Ludwig is really, really struggling right now. Number 66 overall in beta rank. Number 64 overall in drive efficiency. They're struggling to put together long drives to put up points, but even more so, they're really struggling at putting up big plays. Number 98 overall in explosive drives. They've got a decent yards per play outside of explosives. 44 in negative drives. This is their best number. They do a decent job of avoiding 3-and-out and avoiding turnovers, but they're all run. They are not, without Cam Rising, they are not an effective passing team. And Keithy too. I mean, number 17 overall in effective rush versus 112 in effective pass. Now look, they were able to put it together in the run game, bringing a cornerback back and putting him in at running back. They were able to get the run game going against Cal. Cal doesn't have the greatest defense in college football. But neither does USC, so it could probably work here as well. We've got it as Bryson Barnes as your likely start. I should say Caleb Williams is at 70% completion percentage, 10 yards per. Bryson Barnes is your likely starter for Utah, 57.6% completion percentage, 6.0 per. That's miserable. But neither he nor any of the other quarterbacks are doing any better. Nate Johnson's having a bad year. 62 overall on defense. Alex Grinch is your DC for USC. They're really struggling to limit long drives, struggling to limit big plays. And they're not really great at negative drives. 72 overall. They do have a decent run pass split, and it's not the direction you wanted against this Utah team. They're a little bit better defending the pass than they are against the run. I do expect Utah to be able to run the ball fairly effectively here. We've got this as USC is a 71% win probability, 6.67 in the naive spread, but closer in the predicted score, 29.31 USC, 25.17 Utah. This is kind of a fun game. I'm excited for this one. We've got Dabo Swinney leading Clemson, of course. Mario Cristobal leading Miami. Neither of these teams, I think, are where they want to be this season. Offensively, Garrett Riley's your offensive play caller for Clemson, and I'm shocked. I thought this was really going to work out. It really hasn't so far this season. They really continue to have significant offensive problems. Given who they have talent-wise, to be at 32, which is the middle of the Power 5 offense, is a real problem. They're at number 60 overall in drive efficiency. They're really struggling to put together long drives to be able to put up points. I mean, that is a real problem. That is a bad number for a Power 5 program. Number 36 overall in explosive drives. They do a decent job being able to put up big plays to be able to put up points. 45 in play efficiency outside of explosives. It's not bad. Their yards per play. But 21 overall in negative drives. That's where they probably excel at the best. Avoiding 3 and outs, avoiding turnovers. I mean, that's still a positive, but they're at 29 in effective, 43 in effective pass with a 5-star quarterback. Their second 5. I mean, they've had a lot of well-regarded quarterbacks here at Clemson. Really struggling. Cade Klubnik is your starter here. 65.2% completion percentage, 6.5 per. The completion percentage is where you'd like it. Pushing the ball down the field is absolutely not. Lance Guidry is your defensive play caller for Miami. They've taken, I mean, he's a little bit of a step back from Kevin Steele, who got hired away to Alabama. Number 30 overall in drive efficiency. You could put together drives to put up points against this Miami team. I mean, this should be a pretty fun matchup, I think, of these units. Neither of which is overwhelmingly good. What they do, the Canes do pretty well is limit big plays. 26 overall in explosive drives. Not a great number, but it's an improvement. 26 in play efficiency, but their best number, and something to keep an eye on here, is they force 3 and outs and force turnovers. Something to keep an eye on in this game, if they can get Clemson off the field early or force a turnover from them. They're better against the run than they are against the pass, so this actually fits pretty well as far as matchups go. What these teams do well and what they don't. I'm interested to see if Clemson has to rely on the pass a little bit, because Miami's defense has been a little bit saltier against the run, or if Clemson can get the run game going at all and take the pressure off Klubnik. Flip it around to the other side of the ball. This is going to be a tough matchup for this Miami offense. I've got Shannon Dawson as your offensive play caller here. Wes Goodwin is your play caller for Clemson. 39 overall in beta rank. That's on the wrong side of the middle of the Power 5. 41 in drive efficiency. So really struggling, I think, to be able to put up long drives for points, but they're not really good at putting up big plays either. 41 overall in explosive drives. They are really struggling in 2 of the most important numbers in beta rank. Something to keep an eye on that they need to clean up. 42 in play efficiency, outside explosives. It's an all right, yards per play. And negative drives, too many 3 and outs, too many turnovers. They're at 63 overall in effective rush. Not a great run game at all. 35 in effective pass, definitely a better passing game. Tyler Van Dyke's your quarterback here. 70.5% completion percentage, 9.4 per. He's definitely doing everything he can to keep this offense afloat. Not getting a ton of help, I would say, either in the scheme or the execution department. And you wouldn't expect, given Mario Cristobal's commitment along the offensive line, that they would really be struggling to run the football in the ways that they really are this season. They got a Clemson defense that's number 8 overall in beta rank. Now, they struggle with drive efficiency. You can put together long drives to put up points against them, but they've done a pretty good job limiting big plays. So it'll be interesting to see if Miami's able to put together long drives here. It's probably their most viable option towards putting up points. Number 4 overall in play efficiency. It's going to require better execution than we've seen from them. 7 overall in negative drives. This Clemson defense does a really good job forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. Not any kind of real run pass split here. Number 8 overall in effective rush. Number 10 in effective pass. I'm interested to see if this Miami offense can maybe get it going a little bit and improve their number. It's still somewhat early. Some of these numbers are going to move a little bit more as the season goes on still, because we don't have all the data in yet. This is a great opportunity for this Miami offense to potentially take a little bit of a step forward We've got this with Clemson on the road with a 55% win probability. The naive spread is 1.22 for Clemson, but the predicted score is actually, infinitesimally in Miami's favor. Miami 26.58, Clemson 26.12. So we've got this game, and any way you want to slice it is pretty close to a toss-up. Fun group of 5 matchup to keep an eye on this week is Toledo at Miami of Ohio. Jason Candle is the head coach for Toledo. Chuck Martin is your head coach from Miami of Ohio. And this Miami of Ohio defense isn't bad for a group of 5 team at all. And this also isn't a bad group of 5 offense for Toledo. Actually, you could argue Miami's defense is actually pretty good for a group of 5 team. This Toledo offense is called by Pat Welsh. Did I do these backwards? I did. Anyway, so that disregard. This is I switched the logos. So this is the Miami offense. Mea culpa. The Miami offense is at 103 overall in beta rank. Pat Welsh is your play caller here. They do a decent job overall at drive efficiency. In fact, let's just for sanity's sake, for right now. I was like, wait a minute, but I could actually just fix this right at the moment. So this Miami offense is at 103 overall. Pat Welsh is your play caller. They do a decent job, relatively speaking, in their drive efficiency, sustaining long drives to put up points, but they're struggling to put up big plays, relatively speaking. Outside of big plays, they're at 73 overall in play efficiency, putting up a decent yards per play. Negative drives, they're at 96. They do a decent job, again, avoiding 3 and outs and avoiding turnovers. No big run pass split here. Daquan Finn is your quarterback. I've got this backwards again. Brett Gabbert is your quarterback. 61.4% completion percentage, 9.2 per. Toledo defensively, this is a good group of 5 defense, sitting at number 74 overall. What they excel at is finding ways to get off the field, using the field to their advantage. They are quite good at drive efficiency. It is tough to put together long drives against them. That's something to watch in this game, but they are more susceptible to big plays. 108 in explosive drives, 93 in play efficiency. They struggle a little bit for the yards per play outside of explosives, and negative drives, 85. They're not forcing enough 3 and outs, enough turnovers. They're better against the run than they are against the pass. That's probably a good thing against this Ohio defense. This Miami offense. This should be a fun matchup. I'm excited to see this side of the ball. You flip it over. This Toledo offense, number 91 overall in beta rank. This is a decent unit in the group of 5. Now, Rhett Weiner is your... I forgot to look up how to pronounce it. Anyway, is your play caller here. They're struggling with drive efficiency, number 104 overall. They look to hit home runs. This is an explosive offense, relatively speaking. They're looking to hit big plays at number 48 overall on explosive drives. They're at 84 overall in play efficiency. Outside of explosives, not putting up a ton of yards per play, and 99 overall in negative drives. There are too many 3 and outs, too many turnovers. It does feel like, it is like sort of like the three true outcomes offense. Like we used to joke around about Phil Longo, right? Like it's all big plays or nothing. This offense is a little bit all big plays or nothing. They're at 36 overall in effective rush versus 101 in effective pass. That's a fairly significant run pass split for them. Daquan Finn is your quarterback here. 64.4% completion percentage, 7.9 per. This Miami defense is really good for a group of 5. It's at number 52 overall. Number 46 at drive efficiency. They do a good job finding ways to limit teams' ability to drive the field against them, avoid giving up long drives, avoid giving up points. But they're a little more susceptible against explosive drives, number 69 overall. That's something to keep an eye on here. Toledo, as we just talked about, likes to put up big plays. So they might be at a little bit of a disadvantage with what they're able to do or what they're looking to do. 49 overall in play efficiency. They're at 44 in negative drives. They do a decent job, again, forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. That's something to keep an eye on here because Toledo has been susceptible to that. Not a huge run pass split, but not necessarily in the direction you'd want going up against one of the better running attacks in the group of 5. Number 54 in effective rush versus number 45 in effective pass. I think if you look back between these are two decent group of 5 defenses, and that's why I'm highlighting this. This should be a fun game to keep an eye on two of the better group of 5 defenses, see how they do against pretty good group of 5 offenses. We've got this with Miami with a 66% win probability, 5.12 in the naive spread, and 23.81 to 14.5 in the predicted score. Again, like with the defenses, we're not expecting a terribly high scoring game here, but should be a lot of fun nonetheless for two of the better teams in the MAC. And that's it. We got through, and I got to get back to work. But I'm really excited for this week. Like we talked about, like we're going to get a really good idea, I think, for Penn State in particular, who we haven't seen against, a team really in the top end of the distribution. We'll get to see them against a really good opponent in Ohio State. Get an idea where the Nittany Lions are going to fall before we also really need to see them here to get an idea of how good they're going to be against the top end of the competition, because by the time they get to Michigan, we're going to be very deep into the season before we have an idea of how really good Michigan potentially is. Something to keep an eye on. So that will tell us a lot about what we might find out when we get to that Michigan game finally. But also really, this round robin, setup between, Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State is going to largely decide who's going to be going, because of the way the Big Ten is set up, who's likely going to be going off to the college football playoff from the Big Ten, given that the Big Ten still uses division champions to send to the Big Ten Conference Championship game. There's not going to be a rematch between Ohio State and Michigan. They're going to get likely an Iowa team with, as usual, an excellent defense and, as usual, a horrendous offense. So there's that. Keep an eye on this Florida State Duke game too. Look, North Carolina still looms out there, but Duke is a really good team that can't be, Florida State can't afford to overlook as well. Plus USC on the ropes. Can they get by Utah? A team that beat them twice last season. Has all the makings of a really good week in college football. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. So I'm Rob Bowron. I'm the econometrician behind BetaRank. All the stats you just saw and a whole lot more are available at sharpcollegefootball.com. You can find me at BetaRank FB or at Sharp College Football. We have a Pac-12 podcast at 12 Pack Radio. You can find all the back episodes of that at sharpcollegefootball.com/12 Pack Radio. Thank you